Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I long to talk about cards. I feel like that fits.
Every week, you come up with a
I-
new thing.
Yeah, so you gotta kind of bridge this familiar yet slightly different territory, right? You gotta give people the same thing, but in different ways.
Well, to be fair, if we were going like that, I could have said just along for the party. But
people come to expect certain things from us, and so
Right.
I think they expect us to say that I'm the host and Grant to be along for the ride and Ted to just always screw it up. That's what I think. I'm just kidding, Ted.
Okay, no, a real exciting episode today. And before we move on to that, I would expect us to thank our patrons.
Oh, there it is.
Is
Yes, that was phenomenal. I always love when Ted gives us the good transition into the patrons. So, as always, our show is not possible without the generous patrons that give a little bit of money every month. If you'd like to join the patrons, remember patrons are eligible for swag every year. So next year's swag is going to be amazing. It's going to be a huge step up from what we've done the past 2 years. But if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can join us right here at patreon.com/cardtalk2018. And the patrons that I would like to thank for this particular episode are Carl, Daniel, David, Edmund, who is new, and Jake and James and Jason, Joe, who is new. You guys remember Joe from our episode on Raise the Shire. Joseph, Joshua, Justin, Kyle, Lou, Matt, Mike, Dominic, Niall, Peter, Phil, Robert, Russ, Sean, and Vardane. The rolls are growing. We have 23, count them, 23 patrons, and they are all vital to our survival here. So thank you so much for being a patron. And again, if you're interested in becoming a patron of the show, patreon.com/cardtalk2018.
just for Christmas, everybody just subscribe $1 so that way David has to read out 100 names.
And especially for the extravaganza month where we put out a show like once every other day, and I have to read to read 98 names every show there. That would be great.
Our goal as hosts is to make life difficult for our other co-hosts, and this is how we would do that. So please donate to the cause, because it'll be hilarious.
Oh yeah, hilarious.
We're gonna need a whole new title screen just because David can't read them out.
Yeah,
He's gonna have names to buy at the end.
Oh, you guys. Oh, you're so silly. But today, we have a very special announcement, and this is going to be near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. This show is an announcement of sorts of the new cycle that is not an FFG product. Let me make sure that I say that right from the beginning here of the actual show. Is that there's a group of about 50 or so highly dedicated people that are trying to extend the life of the game. So they're trying to create new content, and they're making new content for the game that matches or attempts to match as closely as possible to the product that FFG has created. And that group is headed by none other than C-Stan, friend of the show and host of Cardboard of the Rings, and he is involved. He's also the webmaster, if that's the right word, of RingsDB, and like he's pretty much the man when it comes to a lot of the digital stuff. Octagon, I think he's in charge of Octagon too.
Yeah.
And so he is in charge of the title he's in charge of the group called A Long Extended Party. And so this has been kind of brewing, and when a year ago when FFG announced the final cycle, A Long Extended Party was launched, and they really wanted to take up the reins of the game to provide new content for players of the game. Just so everybody knows, I purposely didn't want to get involved in it. Not that I don't believe in what they're doing. I don't have any objection to it all, but I wanted to provide kind of an untainted opinion of what I see as a card. And of course, I know all the people who have done this. There's about 50 community members. I don't know if I said that or not, but 50 community members. And I thought it was important to have somebody who kind of hadn't seen it to kind of judge whether it's awesome or not. I'm not the best judge of cards, but at least I haven't seen them up until this point. And I know that Ted has not been involved. Ted, have you? I don't think you've been involved in this, right?
No, I have not. I've just sort of skated the, I like to hear the local gossip from Gaffer sitting at the Green Dragon about it, and that's about it.
Right. And Grant, what is your involvement in this?
I was actually going to help out with the law, but as my work schedule and family commitments, it hasn't actually provided me with any time to actually sit down and do anything with that. So I'm basically looking at these with fresh eyes as well.
Yeah. So I mean, and we're as we look at this, it's we just wanted to give a fresh set of eyes to, like Grant said, a fresh set of eyes to content. And again, this is not endorsed or copyrighted by FFG. I think it's going to be, the whole cycle is going to be released on print on demand for free. So, there's that. So it's going to be playable on OCTGN. And so it really has been a labor of love for like a year. And I know that when I've listened to Cardboard of the Rings, Chris would give an update every now and then about how it's going, and he just said he learned a ton. I'm paraphrasing, but he had said he learned a ton about what goes into actually, producing something like this, and he has found a new respect for the people behind the scenes. But before we get into the card that we're going to talk about, we'll go around the table. And I'll just start off by saying, from what I see, this is probably going to be equal to an FFG endorsed or produced product. The amount of care and love that went into this game, into this product by the 50 or so people a part of A Long Extended Party, is just amazing. The release article looks exactly like an FFG release articles. It's got links to cards that are spoiled. We're gonna talk about one of those cards on this show. And so, I said this on the forums, I'll say this out loud here on my show, is that, a lot of people give Chris a hard time to say he's a robot, robot Chris Stanford, and but what I know is after today and after seeing the product is that I know he's not a robot, and my proof is how much love went into this, and we all know that robots can't love like this. So this is proof. Point number one, Exhibit A, for Chris Stanford not being a robot. So, or
some new highly evolved form of cyborg capable of love.
Right. Yeah, but and
maybe you just got an upgrade.
I'll also say that Chris will be the first to say that it's not just him. He happens to be one of the names, but a lot of our own friends in the community are part of this. Guests that we've had on the show and things like that. So we don't mean to leave anybody out when it comes to how much care and how much love went into the planning of this. It's just been kind of distributed under C-Stand's name. And this community is so awesome that I think that they understand that this is a group effort and it's not just one person that should get the credit, but just the community in general, especially those that have been a part of it. So on first look, kudos to the team, because the product that I see as a whole, as a general thing, looks to be outstanding. And Ted, what are your thoughts? What do you see?
It's coming together. Yeah, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that you're right to mention that we're not necessarily, we're not leaving them on purpose, but there's a lot of people involved in this project, and it's shared. Everyone shares the same love for the books and for the lore and for the game. And it's really important to recognize that they're all working really hard. So I'm looking forward to what everyone is putting together, and the article that we're going to be talking about here, and the card from the article is going to give us a glimpse into that. Yeah. So it's cool.
Grant, what's your take on A Long Extended Party?
I think the work that they have put in is amazing. I can't thank them enough for what they are doing for the community. Obviously, without having any funding, all of them have put in a lot of work over the past year and a half of putting things together. So on that side of things, they deserve a big thank you and a round of applause. And from what I've seen from this article, and from looking at some of these cards that they've spoiled in the article, it shows that they've done a great job with it.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that exactly what you said there, that nobody here is expecting any sort of payment. There's no Patreon for this. It's all just a labor of love for everybody involved. So I think that's just how awesome this community is. We say time and time again on this show, and Cardboard of the Rings, and Tales from the Cards. Three's Company podcast, Late of the Rings is another podcast. Like, all the podcasts know that the community that surrounds this game is awesome, and this is just one more reason to say that it's awesome. That said, we are going to get to the card here in just one more second, but I will say that there is going to be a group of people that are purists to the game that aren't going to want to play this, and you know what? That's fine. But I think it's because of the care and effort that went into this by community members and our friends, and I think that's why I want to do this, because I think that there's no promise that FFG is ever going to come back to this. So in order for us to continue to have fresh content, we have to look to creators to make the content, and this being the first post-hiatus or post last thing. Of course, there's been other creators in the community that have made quests, and Ian Martin has done and continued to do his First Age expansion, and that's amazing. As well, I have not dabbled too much in the First Age expansion, but there's a lot of fan-made content out there. Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
The Ancient Madlands project that myself and Samuel Shreve have done, bringing new life into the older cards to bring them onto the new power. There's a lot of extra work that from the community to just try and extend the life of the game.
Right. And I think that this project is the one that's going to probably be the place that the community is going to likely go if they're looking for fan-made content. It just seems to be the natural progression. So the first age is awesome. There is some limiting fact. You can't play some of the current card pool in the first age stuff, and so that's a little bit limiting here. That's designed to play and integrate right where the last cycle left off. So, but we do want to acknowledge that this is not necessarily for everybody if they're purists to the game. So people are not going to want to play it, and that's fine. I'm gonna play it. I may even print it off because I'm so excited about this. It'll be a lot of fun. But all of that huge introduction about all the hard work and awesomeness that the guys and girls behind the scenes have done for this have culminated with this. And I guess it's important to start like we would start with any deluxe box and a spoiler and say, well, what's the name of the cycle and what's the name of the box? Grant, do you have that information?
Do I have that information?
I do.
Go ahead, my friend. You've got it at hand.
Okay, so the box. Let me make sure that I have it right. Is the cycle is called the Oaths of the Rohirrim. Okay, yep. So that's the total box, and then the total cycle, and then the big box, the 3 scenario deluxe expansion is going to be called the Children of Eorl, and so that's what we have. So
okay, well,
so it appears that we're going to be in Rohan, right?
Well, that's where Eorl hails from.
Right.
Where his children are actually based. So we are starting off with a bang. We are starting off with a spirit hero for this new box. It is an 11 cost, 3 willpower, 1 attack, 3 defense, 4 hit points, Rohan noble warrior called Thengel. With the response, after a player discards an ally from play, that player searches the top 5 cards of their deck for an ally that shares a trait with the discarded ally, puts it into play exhausted, and shuffles their deck. Limit once per round.
Well, Grant, keep talking. What do you think? What do you think of this guy?
I think that is one hell of an ability.
Careful, I don't want to have to break out the sensor here.
Beep, 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 beep,
yeah, right. Holy beep.
But no, his stats are very well distributed. You can slap Snowman on there, and he can quest and defend very nicely, without much issue. Overall, I actually think that this is actually probably a good start. If this is anything to go by, this is a phenomenal start to what the long extended party's done.
Yeah, I agree. Ted, what's your take on Thengel?
Yeah, he seems strong. my initial opinions here, and he definitely seems to support the Rohan play archetype as well. But what's interesting is he's not limited to that, because the trait doesn't have to be traits shared with him. It's just the trait sharing is between the ally, the one that's leaving play, and the one that you're searching the top 5 cards of your deck for. Clearly, this is going to play best with Rohan because they have so many effects that cause you to discard them from play. Allies like Aomend, events like Ride to Ruin, There's a dozen other all within that archetype, and this
The
is
Westfold Horsebreaker.
yeah. There's like a dozen, like so many of
Right.
them
Right.
fit that playstyle. So he's meant to strengthen that style of play, that archetype, and I think it's something that is kind of needed because I haven't really been a big fan personally of that play style. I never really got it to go off the ground. So I didn't put too much effort into trying to make it work after my initial plays. So they seem to kind of be wanting to pick that up and cover that hole, especially within the theme of the cycle. So it looks, it definitely looks fun. It looks real fun to do.
Yeah.
What about you, David?
Well, I think it's interesting because this distribution of stats is really interesting to me. Like, is there another really good defender? Because 3 defense and 4 hit points, like that's on the order of Thranduil, right? And so like I'm right there with Thranduil, 3 defense, 4 hit points, but then something that can also then quest for 3, like that's new, right? What defender is there that can also quest? Baragon's not doing it.
From all
Denethor's not doing it.
From all spheres.
Yeah, from anything.
Yeah, I mean that's on par with that's close to Elrond because he's got 3 willpower. He's got almost the same stat line, but Elrond has 1 more attack
and 1 more hit point. 5 hit points, or does Elrond have 4 hit
points?
Right.
Elrond had 4. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I mean,
Elrond's he's one of the heroes that's unequally weighted with his cost due to his ability.
His sphere matching ability, right?
Yeah.
Yep, you've got Gandalf and Elrond, and if you're looking at allies, also Gildor and Glorian.
Yeah, I mean, so this definitely plugs a hole in the card pool, right? Like, here's a defender that can also quest. Like, all of the response and traits aside, like, this to me is something pretty unique. I like that it's in Spirit because Spirit has good defenders and it has good good willpower, good questers. So I like it's a good sphere match, and plus the Rohan trait is good to have in Spirit too. So when I'm looking at this hero, I'm thinking, wow. So I have defending done, but I guess the big problem is that you can't do both. Like, it doesn't innately allow you to do both things in one round. So I say that because I guess I'm being overly analytic of a fan-made card. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to find a hole for it, and so right. I'm saying, like, and this card seems powerful because it allows to replace a card that's gone, but it doesn't seem too overpowered because you still have to do like readying tricks in order to get Thengel to be able to do double duty, and like right. It seems pretty okay, and I know that Along Extended Party did a lot of play testing with this, so I'm sure that, especially with Chris being at the helm, like I'm sure that he tried to break all these cards that were there, and it's fine. That's probably why there's a limit once per round on this particular card, because you can have allies. Rohan is famous for the discard thing, so
that could easily happen
4, 5, 6 times.
You could do that, like easily 3 times in one turn. If not 5 or 6 times, depending on how far you're into the game, how many allies you've played, because many allies have it built in innately. So yeah, I get your sense of what you're getting at there, where this has likely been play tested extensively because all these creators are players. They were players first,
right?
So they're gonna play their cards.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, so when I'm thinking about this, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, it's just it's just me. Like I'm looking at ways that like I'm trying to come up with a way to say this is OP, this stinks, and I just can't come up with it. I think that this is a great fit for the card pool, right? And so I think that this is something that is helps the Rohan engine go, and it gives you an alternative to playing Eowyn that gives you the willpower, but then also helps you grease that Rohan engine, right? Like that whole discard thing, right? And so, a lot of times when you play Rohan, you need to put Eowyn, Spirit Eowyn in there because you want a Spirit Hero, or you're probably gonna use Santa Theoden or Spirit Theoden, so this gives you an alternate to that that can do a little more, than what Spirit Eowyn can do. So that's where I see this going. Like pick your best Rohan deck, take out that has Spirit Eowyn in it, take Spirit Eowyn out of it, and put Thengel in it. That's what I would say. So.
Yeah, it's
awkward silence.
Well, this is different, right? This is something that's it's different and unexpected in a few ways. And I'm anxious to like myself, right? So with the spoilers too, just to preface this, anytime we spoil an article, we haven't played the cards, right?
Right.
So we've usually just like seen them and we're like, here we go, off to record. Let's talk about the cards.
Right.
But my opinion almost always changes after you put the card on the table. You see really what it's capable of. So I think we're all at that same point where it's like, well, this looks great, and then we got to put it on the table to see just how underwhelming, overwhelming, or perfectly whelming the card is.
Perfectly whelming.
Yeah.
It's either over, under, or just plain old whelming.
It's whelmed. You know, am I going to be just whelmed by Thengel here? But the first impression is like, this looks quite good. This has a wow factor, which I think they wanted to do. I think the designers wanted to say, hey, we're going to put out this content for the community, and we want it to be fun to play. We want it to be fun and to be good. Right. And I think Thengel, Dangly Dangly is going to be the guy to do it for us.
Thangly Dangly.
Yeah.
I'm just busy thinking of multiple decks that you could run that would really benefit from this Thengel's ability.
Yeah, there's clearly.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna get into. Is I was gonna say, well, let's take what the typical Rohan engine is. Maybe the basic Rohan engine. There's a lot of ways to play Rohan, right? So let's.
Right. Well, let's just take the discard.
The discard make it right. So that's gambling and you get to gambling. I think is the one that allows you to recur an ally.
Add it back to your hand when you discard it.
Right. So I mean, so
hero lineup.
Go ahead.
Hero lineup. You've got Thengel.
Right.
You've got Spirit Theoden for the cost reduction.
Right.
That puts you already at 23 threat.
Right.
Who's your third Rohan going to be?
Theoden.
Is it going to be Theoden, or is it going
It's going to be Grandpa.
Or is it going to be?
It's going to be Grandpa, Dad, and Son.
A tactics hero.
I think it's going to be Theoden.
Okay.
That's just me. Like when I'm playing that discard mechanic, I'm looking at. I guess I use Tactics Eowyn, right? So I don't know. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go. Even within the Rohan archetype, there's many different ways to build that
discard deck.
Because you have cards pretty much in all spheres. You have leadership cards for sure, tactics cards for sure, and spirit cards
for sure.
I think
You only
lore
have
can
2 lore Rohan cards, right?
right, and they have
Name
no
them.
like events.
Name them. The two as far as I know, that there's 2.
Grima
Grima and
the ally that's from the core box, and I'm blanking on his name.
Right. He plays the harp.
Leoine?
Leoine.
Thank you very much. I knew who it was. He's playing.
Right. So I guess this guy's not going into your Bond of Friendship deck, probably, but
No, I think what I'm excited to do is, so he clearly has this sort of play style in mind when he's designed, which most heroes do. Have cards they're designed with to know what they're going to synergize with. But what's interesting for him, as I said earlier, is he's not limited to the trait. So the other trait in the game that has a discarding mechanic is also the Bjornings.
oh.
So the skin changer, the beekeeper,
The giant bear.
the giant bear. I think the giant bear shuffles into your deck,
and the Guardian.
You could use
and the guardian.
you could use discarding using one of those effects. You could pull the giant bear out into play.
Exactly. So you could discard your Bjorning, the guardian, right, to use his ability to put progress on a location. I think is what he does.
Yep.
And then pull out Bjorn or a giant bear from your deck. So because Rohan and Bjornings they kind of share a similar mechanic of discarding themselves. So he also oddly synergizes with them, and that's probably going to be the first thing I do with it, because I don't know.
I was going to say, like, now that it's like, and it's in the same sphere as Stargazer, so you can stargaze and make sure that you have, and there's enough Bjornings out now with the last 2 FFG cycles, that I think that you can smush 20 some odd Bjorning allies in your deck. I think that's about how many that there are when you look at, because you can get 3 of for a lot of them, and then,
Yeah, there's not as ton.
Thengel
right?
and friend, is he going to be the end not the end friend, the Bjorning friend? Is that what he's like?
It could quite possibly be.
Wow.
So those are the 2 that come to mind. I don't. Aside from those 2 traits, there's a couple other mechanics in the game. So for example, if you play a card that I really like for multiplayer is rear guard.
Okay. What's rear guard?
Rear guard is a leadership event for 1 where you have to discard a leadership ally from play, and you give all heroes committed to the quest +1 willpower.
Okay.
So you could discard a leadership ally of any trait you want, Gondor, Rohan, whoever, and then when you're getting that effect, you'll get to also trigger Thengel's response. Mm-hmm. So it gives that card a substantial boost, because now you're not really losing an ally to get the willpower boost to all the heroes in play. So that's pretty substantial, especially when you have a 3 or 4 player game. In a 4 player game, you could have 8 heroes questing. That could be +8 willpower easily, if not more.
Is there something here with Imrahil and Lothiriel? Like, I haven't played Imrahil and Lothiriel enough. Like Tactics Imrahil. You bring somebody out.
I think Thengel's worded specifically when the ally is discarded from play, and I think both Lothiriel and Tactics Imrahil say something to the effect of, if that ally's in play at the end of the phase, shuffle them into your deck, and they're not specifically being discarded from play.
But I guess what I'm saying is, can you get Imrahil? Can you go get a Rohan here, or can you go get somebody that has a discard ability like Aemond or like what's
Oh,
the escort
100%.
for Edoras? Go get them. But you have to match, like, sphere match with Imrahil, right? Like, is it too much or is it not? Like, I don't know. Like,
No.
With Imrahil, they have to share a trait with them, and I think the same is said for and as for Lothiriel,
I can look up Lothiriel while you're talking.
Yeah.
And as for her, she has to share a trait with the ally as well. So you could potentially, if someone's playing with Irma, have Lothiriel bring in, say, the escort from Edoras during the quest phase, and discarding it at the end with its ability, triggering Thengel to, say, pull in a Riddermark Knight or something, and then you've got your ally there, and then you've obviously got Prince Imrahil's effect if you haven't triggered it during the quest phase with Lothiriel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something there. I'd have to mess around with it, but I feel like, Grant, you were able to vocalize what I was trying to say. Like, I feel, and it's not much of a build, like, like to get, like Lothiriel, Imrahil, and Aemir is already a thing. So if you take out Imrahil and put in Thengel, or take out Aemir and put in Thengel, I don't know. There's something there. There's got to be something there. So I'm just having a hard time visualizing everything. That's just
without the cards in front of you, it's hard to just talk about and visualize like that.
I know. They didn't give any suggested uses in the article. Like, they did give a new mount that goes in this set, but they didn't give any, like, bring new life to Lothiriel, or or Tactics Imrahil by using King Thengel. So that would have been nice. I don't know. So, yeah.
Well, you're onto something, because you could use Prince Imrahil to pull out a character using his ability as a combat action that shares a trait with him, like Warrior, and then if that ally also has an ability to make them discard themselves, like Hama, for example,
right,
you will then be triggering Thengel's effect to get a new card and replace them, and then that ally. What's crazy is that ally will stay in play.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like,
right.
That's always been the big knock on Rohan, is that, they're Sylvans, they're they're non-bouncy Sylvans. Like, they go out of play and then they're really hard to get back into play. That's why you need that gambling thing where you're exhausting gambling to bring one back in your hand. Or does Guthwine, is that one that brings something back into your hand too? Guthwine?
Guthwine brings an ally. Guthwine brings a ally that is in the discard, a Rohan ally in the discard pile back to your hand.
Is Guthwine a good target for? Probably not, because he only has one attack, right? So it would be good for the deck on somebody else, on, like, Aemir, right? Like, that's where it would be, like.
I mean, three attack isn't, if you're pairing him with, say, somebody else to attack, or you've given him Theoden's sword Herogrim as well.
Right.
It's not actually a bad target.
Or,
because then all of a sudden he's attacking for 6.
What about the attack into the staging area thing? Like, is Dunhir a good, Dunhir Aemir? Like, Dunhir's Rohan, or does that not?
Dunhir.
What's that? Dunhir's what?
Dunhir's amazing.
Well, I know that you love
amazing.
Dunhir.
Exactly. I
mean,
so what you getting at?
I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is this card specifically for the discard like I'm trying to get past the response, which is awesome. Or wait, well, let's look at. Wait. Because the response is that the ally has to share a trait, and we had an episode with Justin Guy back on the show a couple of months ago where we talked about trait sharing, and it's hard to have allies that have a ton of traits, right? So this guy, like, so that's really what it is that, you know, it's not that he has to share a trait with a hero. He's got to share a trait with the ally that was just discarded.
Yeah.
So that's why it even works really well with the Beornings, right? So Grimbeorn, Beorn, and Thengel, like, there it is, right? There's your lineup with that's
talk about a high threat start.
Well, I mean, like, what's Grimbeorn's starting threat?
11 or 11, I think.
And then Beorn? What's Beorn's starting threat?
Beorn's 12, but I'd say in that deck you'd want his ally version.
Yeah,
because he can. Right. But I mean, this helps the Beornings out. And that's Ted. Now that I'm reading that it's like, now that I'm really processing the out, just so you guys know that are viewing this, like, I haven't sat down like Ted said at the beginning of the show, like, we haven't sat down and talked about how to use this. We haven't put this in decks and played it. You know, like, we're really just theory crafting as we're talking out. You know, we're just three guys who play this game all the time. You know, so
three dudes that play this game.
Right. Which was the alternate name of the podcast. Three dudes who play this game, but Card Talk is a little more succinct.
Well, technically, when we first started, it was two dudes that play this game.
Right. How's that make you feel, Ted?
Included. Which I'm now in the outro, so.
Yeah, you are in the outro of our
really, accomplishments have been achieved.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry, I don't think I've seen that outro. Are you sure it exists?
Yeah.
I've heard it.
He heard it. He wanted to make sure that he was acknowledged in the outro. So, but I mean, so this guy really, like, he sneaky helps Beornings. So that's Grimbeorn. It's like, are you playing a Rohan Beorning deck? Like, are you going to do Thengel, Grimbeorn? So then you have defense, attack, and then you put Tactics Eowyn in, and you're starting with 29 threat, and you're doing, like, crazy, awesome, stupid stuff with this guy?
Quite possibly. Thank you, David, for the idea.
Yeah, it was,
because then you'll have two Rohan heroes, and is Tactics Eowyn a warrior?
I do not believe so. I want to say she's noble and Rohan only off the top of my head.
Okay. But, I mean, that seems to be like you have attacking taken care of with the Beornings, and then you can just use the Rohan stuff for questing or whatever for questing, right? Like, I don't know. That was going to be wild. Oh, man. Now I'm looking up Eowyn, Tactics Eowyn. I should probably know. That's like the best hero in the game, right? But
Ted, did you catch any word of
that? No, I wasn't sure if it was my internet or nothing. But David, there's some artifacting going on, and you cut out, so we didn't hear your.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was just looking up. I was looking up Tactics Eowyn so that I could see what trait she was. She's Rohan and noble, and so, you know, like,
okay.
So any of the old tropes with Eowyn, like, now I'm really excited to have like, you don't even have to use Grimbeorn. Like, you just need tactics access, right? Like, you need, like, because you don't have to trait match at all.
Something I haven't done yet. Is to try and get the Rohan discarding archetype thing to give it a little more juice. A big key piece of that, I feel, is gambling.
Right.
Because ally gambling lets you, when the ally is discarded, you exhaust him, and you get to put that ally back in your hand, which I think really fuels that archetype. And he's eligible as a Messenger of the King hero.
Right, because he's unique,
So,
right?
yeah, so I was wondering how impactful he'll be if you start the game with him. So from turn 1, you can play an ally, discard its effect. So if you MOTK gambling with this guy, that I feel like could be bonkers, because turn 1, you're going to play some Spirit Ally, discard it, put it back in your hand, and then get a new one to replace it. And you can do that every single turn.
Okay, running with that idea, Spirit Theoden, Thengel, and Messenger of the King gambling. So you
Yeah.
get the cost reduction, you get the discard, and you get the recursion.
But then you're
Right,
stuck. Then you're
yeah.
then you're stuck with just Spirit. I mean, there's a ton of Spirit Rohan.
Just
but you're
Spirit?
But then if you've got the Storm Comes, you can add allies in from other spheres. And
Well, I mean, you can do all sorts of crazy things, but having a only Spirit.
it doesn't have to be an only Spirit ally deck because his trait does not need a sphere match.
How are you going to get the original ally into play?
You've got stuff like Stand and Fight if you need to discard it.
So I guess what I'm saying is if I draw a whole bunch of, if I draw my opening hand and I have, 3 tactics Rohan allies and 2 leadership Rohan allies, I can't play any of those.
I'd mulligan it.
Right. But I guess the point is that, you have to have a significant portion of your deck be Spirit.
Yeah.
The
In
Spirit.
that example, yes.
Most of the allies that require discard are in Spirit, bar a few that are in Tactics.
Right, like the Westfold Outrider, or not Outride, Westfold.
You got the Widowmark's Finest. You got
I'm thinking of the Tactics.
Westfold Horse Breeder.
What's the Tactics ones? The one that allows you to. The one that allows you to engage somebody, the Westfold
Outrider.
It's the Westfold Outrider?
Yep.
I believe so.
Okay, and then then there's Grimbold, and it does all sorts of discard stuff. I don't know. I think the thing to do is to forget the Rohan and go with Bjornings. Help smooth over that Bjorning thing. Like, that's brilliant in my book.
I want to see that happen. I want to put a Bjorning skin changer, discard him to then play a giant bear from my hand and pull a giant bear also from my deck. It's right. That's a play that could very easily happen.
Yeah, because you can double, once you do that, right? Because you're discarding the ally, so you can go dig for the one, and then this will put a second one. You're getting 2 for 1 out of that.
Right. You could get 2 giant bears for the cost of 2.
If you have one in your hand and one in the top 5. Right?
One in the top 5, right? That requires some setup and some luck. But still, you could pull out a different Bjorning ally from your deck, or you could have a different Bjorning in your hand, like Bjorn Ally or the Guardian.
Anything.
Or the Beekeeper.
It doesn't even matter, right? It just doesn't even really matter.
Right.
And so then the thing is to just try to figure out how you're going to quest with this thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but he's got 3 willpower, so you got a good base for that.
Is Golden Shield going to go on this guy? I have to remind myself what Golden Shield
he's
looks like.
super. I'm glad you mentioned that because he's super bonkers with the Golden Shield because his willpower and his defense are both 3, so Golden Shield makes him defend for 6, which is Baragon level defending.
Right. You put
for a single resource. He's just
for
not
one resource.
Sentinel.
He's Baragon, right? Right.
Yeah, but then you could give him Sentinel with ally Arwen, who's in Sphere, and then you're defending for 7 Sentinel, and that seems okay.
That seems okay.
Yeah, I've just done a quick count, and there are 7 cards with the discard feature in Spirit and Tactics.
Okay.
So you've got 2.
As I say, it's probably 4. It's the horses. It's the horse breeder, horse breaker.
You've got 5
right.
in Spirit. So you've got
right.
9. You've got 9 cards
right.
that in the Rohan trait that discard themselves.
Yeah.
And they're fairly even balance between spirit and tactics.
Right. Yeah. I think you're just...
Right, that's just tip of the iceberg stuff we're talking about.
Yeah,
So, and I'm sure this has all been tested and thought about, and then not to mention
right.
there's going to be cards in this cycle that they designed. We're going to see more Rohan allies, right?
There's even 2 Rohan allies that were spoiled with this that have a new keyword called Devoted, and the 2 allies are the Deeping Archer, which is a puny Rohan ranged character, and then there's the Deeping Defender, which is, like a Ramos, like a defender of the Ramos for Rohan. It's got 3 defense and 2 hit points as opposed to 4 defense and 1 hit point. So that makes it a little better. They both have like effects, but they have this Devoted keyword, which is kind of interesting. The Devoted keyword is new for this cycle, and as long as you share a trait with the ally, as long as the ally shares a trait with every hero, you get to pay for them without a sphere match. So I think that's the way it says. Let me read. I'm quoting the thing. It says the Devoted keyword gives player cards the following ability. While each hero you control shares at least one trait with an ally with the Devoted keyword, that ally does not require a resource match. So if you're looking at something that's Rohan and it has the Devoted keyword, as long as all your heroes are Rohan, you can put them into play without a sphere match. So it allows you to play a leadership ally without having a leadership hero, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. So
one of the things that I hope, okay, and this is my big thing about that I've come to realize about the game and the developers, Caleb even, and I've said this to Caleb, is I hope that this cycle is not heavy-handed with just one particular thing. Like, I don't want this to be a cycle that is everything that has to do with. I don't mind that that it takes place in Rohan. I don't mind that the locations are Rohan locations and that sort of thing. But I don't want every player card to be Rohan because then what that does is that unbalances the game towards one particular trait
archetype.
Yeah, because now you have so many more player cards that are working towards this. Now I can't tell, and there's always, I don't know, there's something like like 50 different player cards in a cycle. So, and I'm only looking at 5 of them. So, I can't tell what's going on. And of course, it's obvious that they wanted the theme of Rohan, but I hope that the content also is spread out over, more of the traits. Like, I would like to see a different Hobbit ally, that has nothing to do with anything, like things like that, and there also needs to be just kind of normal old allies to bring out into play that aren't,
Yeah, that's a great point, David, and something that the game has traditionally done is old archetypes still get new cards. Like Dunedain. So I think you want to see cards that support Dunedain, that support dwarves, Sylvans, hobbits. You just want to make sure that none of those cards are left out, which has been a common just item that that FFG has done. There's always been breath of new life into those currently played archetypes. So I'm sure that has been reviewed and thought about also by the crew, because they're trying to keep it very consistent with the FFG standard, is what it seems, right? Just by looking at this article and the card design and the layout of it. And they seem to want to hold true to what players are used to, essentially. and stick to that. So I'm sure that we'll see additional allies come out that aren't just solely Rohan.
Let's hope. That's my hope for the future. Well, I mean, we've been talking for an hour about a long extended party, and we've been talking a long time about just Thengel in general without having played them. Do you guys have any last gasps before we wrap up this show?
I would say we're done here.
We're done here. Grant, did you have any last gasps?
I'm face palming right now. No, I think that it should be. I'll be looking forward to actually getting these play tested.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing them released on Octagon, so I can get the cards and figure out.
Yeah, so if you're looking to check out the article, it's a long expected party, or excuse me, I keep confusing the two. It's a long extended party, longextendedparty.com, and there's links from the Cardboard of the Rings Facebook page,
right,
as well.
Okay, well, we normally go through a highly scientific yet arbitrary system of rating these cards on a scale from 1 to 10. But typically we don't do that on spoilers. We should just say whether we like this or don't like it. So I'll start. I'll say that good job, guys. I like this card, and I like the potential of how it's going to fit in not only with Rohan, but like I've said 100 times, how it's going to fit into the Beorning trait too. Grant, what do you think?
I like it.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side.
Thumbs up all the way.
Thumbs up all the way. Okay. Ted?
Thumbs up for me as well.
Okay.
The crew has put in a lot of work, and I'm excited to put some of the cards on the table.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for this special spoiler episode, and thanks to everybody for contributing to the community in all the ways that you do, and a special thanks to A Long Extended Party for all their work in creating this player-generated cycle. We can't wait to see it and get it, and so thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time on Card Talk.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube, and there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.